Perfect. Well, it's nice to be here with you all today. Today we're talking about reporting. We're going to dive into several various topics, some high level, some a little bit more in depth. So please do use that Q&A, put your questions in there, and then Jasmine will respond or she'll interrupt me because I'm going to be focusing on training, and so she can let me know if there's something that we should stop and focus on real time, which is excellent. And so please do use that feature. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you all. Okay, perfect. Can you all see? No, not yet. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can see my screen here in just a moment. I have Filevine up. I have the report builder up, right? Because that's where we want to start. Now, you have the ability to create lots of reports in Filevine. There's lots of data and information there, and you can get as in the weeds as you want to with it. As you see over here on this left-hand side, these are all the reports that I have access to or that somebody has shared with me. And the way I know this is because there are some reports here with my name on them, but there are lots of reports that don't have my name. And that means it was created by someone else in my organization that has then shared that data with me, which is fantastic because then I can use that report to continue to build on. So if somebody else created a task list report for a specific person and shared it with the group, I could use that task list report to add a couple additional columns to it or update the criteria to my own task list and then save as a new report. So make sure to use the reports that have been shared with you, review any of them to see if it's something necessary that you're interested in so that you can not have to start at the very beginning of building a report. You can start from wherever your coworkers left off. So first I want to talk about in reporting, right? List of projects is number one on purpose because it's used the most. Audit reports is honestly a little bit more managerial, or if you're really diving in and looking for like, ooh, what was I working on? There's something that I did I need to go back and take a look at. You can get a little bit more in the weeds on that. And then if you are running that list of tasks, this one is another key one for anybody who's working in Filevine who needs to, one, keep up on their tasks and would rather do it from a report or see to prioritize versus your tasks up here where you can look at that day to day. But depending on how many you do, a report can be really nice to help you, again, prioritize, or on a managerial level, see what your team is working on. If somebody's out for the day, let's check their tasks, right? So those are some of those key ones that are really big. And as hopefully the majority of you know, all these reports here at the bottom, these list reports, they pop up when you choose the organization and what you're looking for. And we'll just choose personal injury. It's one of the classics, right? So then I have a list, and these are lists of those collection sections inside of Filevine, right? The medical, insurance, liens, all those sections where there's a plus button at the top. That's the collection section. And as we can see here in this medicals, there is a button right here with a report attached that we can run directly from here just to look at what is listed here in this project. That is one of my favorite features here on Filevine that I use regularly. And I want to walk you through what it looks like to get that set up. You may have to talk to an admin at your firm because you do need some backend features to do that. But I want to show you how it's done so that if it's going to be useful for your new team or you're not yet using it at your firm, that you do talk to the admin of our Filevine to get some of those set up for you. So I have pulled a list of medical items here. And again, as you're creating these reports and determining what you need on there, you can go back and add additional information. I went in and I added a bunch of information from my medical section. And one of the ways to do that, if you need information and you're struggling to find it, this quick select can be very helpful. And sometimes it can be frustrating because it can be hard to find exactly what you need. So I like to go to the front end, and if there was something that I needed, like let's talk about this treatment start date. Let's say I want this on this report. I can just copy and paste it. And then this one isn't each medicals item. I want it for each one listed inside of this project, right? Or inside of the projects. So I'm going to do both date treatment completed and started so that I can see that it has been completed, or if it has not, I'm going to select that one. So that is a quick way to just go to the front end and copy and paste. It works most of the time. And then sometimes you do have to make sure you're selecting the right one. And if you're unsure, throw them both in there, run the report, look at the columns and see which data works for you. And then you'll be able to move forward and decide. Now, specifically for reports that you are linking to your collection item, you want to leave these ones a little more high level. You want these to be able to have the data and information, because you're thinking this button is here for any case that you have in this template and this entire section. So I don't want to filter it out per provider. I don't want to add criteria that is going to filter out information that is needed for some of those cases. So I am, in this case, not going to use criteria. As many of you know, lots of criteria available to you. Sometimes our criteria can be hard to find exactly what you're looking for, but in most cases, it's there for you. And just like the columns and deciding which item to choose for column, I recommend clicking on them if you're not sure and seeing the values. Some are yes, no, some are drop downs, some you have to type in to help get you exactly where you need. And some of the typing ones, it's contains, just like you use inside a Filevine sometimes, instead of you want it to search for anything that contains this word or this individual or this first name, instead of exact or is the more equal sign one. That can be helpful in getting your criteria filtered down to what you need. So sometimes you have to be a little creative and you have to click on them, you have to try them out, but you can usually find what you need. And of course, worst case scenario, go to the help center, reach out to Filevine, and they should be able to quickly help you on that phone call with them. Choose the right criteria.
And for
Okay.
criteria, it does change depending on which report you're running. So a list of medicals items is going to have medical specific criteria. If you run a list of reports and you're like, where is that same criteria? It changes. So keep that in mind.
Correct. And that's why, again, you just kind of have to start diving into exactly what you're looking for and then just dig a little deeper, a little deeper. So I'm running this report. Once I get here, I don't know if any of you saw my quick tip video introduction to this training. One of the features that I absolutely love is this feature here for grouping information. Way back in the day when Jasmine and I were working at Filevine, this was not available. And this was one of the big asks by most firms. Like, how do I group together? I want to know what each attorney is working on. I want to know what each assistant is working on. And this is how you can do that for whatever. And again, this is going to change. It's specific to this report. I can group information together. So if I wanted to search by provider, in case there's multiple providers they've seen over and over again over the last few months, I can do that here. And then every time that report is run, it's going to group it by provider for me. So I don't have to filter in Excel, it's already done for me. And then it's going to run that report, and then I can save and export that report. And as we see here, I had already had, see here we have information from all of these fabulous doctors, Minnie and Donald, Dr. Strange. I have added additional information to my report here. So I will want to continue and save that. So I'm going to go to save and export and then save. This was my original report. So it just says save because I'm saving my report and I'm extending it to this new version. So it will be the same name. If you are making edits and changes to somebody else's report, it will say save as. You will save it as a new name, whatever you want it to be named as. And then it will show on that first screen for selecting reports your name as the owner of that report now. As we
So
know
there
here,
was a question, which I think you kind of just answered. If I share a report with a coworker and they make changes and save it, will the original report still be accessible? So if
Yes,
and even if you update your report and you want the original to show still, instead of saving, you would press save as, and that would save a copy of your report so that your original is still accessible. If you do save, it overrides whatever your original report was and makes this your new kind of item for your report.
correct. So if I go back to like the report, this list of medicals, there is one listed with my name on it because I overwrote the original to add those new items. If I were to click save as, I would save as a new name, more specific, right, of what I'm looking for. We have maybe an overall one, and then maybe it's per provider, that I would save as, and then I would have two reports that I own in that select report list. Excellent question. Thanks for popping in. And any other questions that we should go over before I move on?
If they don't use save as, will it still be accessible? So, and maybe once we finish this, Hillary can show you what a shared report will look like. Your, when you share out a report, it doesn't have the option to save for the other user. It just has the save as, and I think it's like the export option here. It doesn't
Correct.
have any of the other items that are down below. So it does look different when you share out a report.
Exactly. I'll just pull up one of these. So this one's owned by Kendall, and I'm just going to click on it. I didn't create it. I never looked at this before. I have access to it, so I can click this. I can view it. It's going to take a minute because it's not, I'm sharing Zoom, right? And so it's slow, but I will be able to see her report, her columns, what she has. I can add additional columns to it if I wanted to. It's going to automatically take me to run report, which can take a minute. I'm going to jump back to columns so I can see here everything she has. If it looks good to me, I can leave it this way and just view the report. Or potentially I can go and add additional columns, let's say project ID. And as soon as you choose something that changes the original report, this says it has unsaved changes. So you can view the report that somebody else has created exactly as is without any issues or problems. But as soon as I make changes and I run that report and come to my save part, I have to make that choice. And I'll show you here exactly what Jasmine was saying for hitting that save as, and like as she said, that export option that we can see here. It's just going to take a moment. Hopefully this is not a ginormous report. No, it's not huge. Okay. So now I see how it says save as. There's no save option because I wasn't the owner. So I can't overwrite my original report like I did on the previous report we looked at the list of medicals. And I could save this as my own, and then those additional options would show up here. If I do not make any changes, what do we add? Let's take that back. If I don't make any changes to this report, this would go away and it would just show as the report I'm viewing it. I could save another copy if I really wanted to. If you don't make changes, you don't need to save another copy. It will just clutter up your report list that you have over here. I'm going to jump back into my medicals. So that'll take a second to bring up. But just keep in mind, again, if somebody else owns the report, you can view it if they've shared it with you. There are lots of reports that people in your organizations have created that are not shared with you. So if there might be information or detail that you are interested in that you think somebody else might have, you can always ask them, hey, do you have a report that pulls this information? Can you share it with me? And then you can build from there on your own report. And some of your admins might already have specific reports like your list of tasks and things like that built out for you. So this one, again, we can see because I own it, save and save as. It does look different here. We have our export options. And I'm going to go over this a little bit. I'm not going to show you in a lot of detail. Export forms here in Excel or Word. These are great options if you need formulas done inside of Excel that, Filevine's reporting gives you data. It's really just pulling the data into an Excel format, usually. And a lot of times there might be, especially like in this medical situation, I may want it to pull in a report of the total of all of my, original balance, final balance, write-offs, payments, that information that I may want totals of. I can create an export option by following the instructions here and in the Help Center at Filevine and add those formulas in, upload it here in the export options. And then every time this report is run, it will give me those totals. So it's an excellent tool for anybody who needs to use Excel formulas to manage the data that you have. Because in Filevine, it's just giving you data points. It's just giving you the information. So I highly recommend utilizing this for any reports that you do need those for, and you may have to play around with it a little bit. But again, use the Help Center in Filevine, and we may even have some good videos out there for you as well on our website, because it is a really good option, and I do highly recommend utilizing it. And then of course we have our auto report settings. This one I love, okay? And hopefully most of you know how to do this and have set this up for yourselves. This is just for me. So if somebody, maybe you're an admin, you're the office manager, and somebody wants you to set it up for them, I would love that feature, and I would love for you all to go on and tell Filevine that you want that and share your feedback. But right now, you can only set up auto report settings for yourself. So if you were the admin, if you were somebody, the office manager, you could go to that person's desk. You can help walk them through the process of coming into the report and setting up those auto settings. And as we see, we have weekly, monthly, yearly, because you could have some annual, monthly reporting, right? Most of us probably live in this weekly time frame where I need it every Monday. I need it every day, right? Task lists, things that you might want every day. If you like working from your email and a report more than you like working from your feed and your task list, right? Everybody to each their own. This is an excellent way to do that. But again, you could choose the days that you want to receive the information. As you see here, your report runtime, it says morning or evening. It doesn't say by 8 a.m. your time. And so you can choose your time zone. All the reports inside of Filevine are running in a queue system, and you don't know what other reports are in that queue or how large of data scope they are. So it could take some time, and they can come in at a varied time, either in the morning or in the evening, right? So if you want to make sure that that report is in your inbox by 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, then I recommend choosing the time zone that's one time zone ahead of yours. That can help make sure that it is there in time. And if for any reason it's not, I've never had any issues with that, but then you would go 2 time zones ahead of yours, right? If necessary. There's lots of time zones listed, so you should be able to 100% find exactly what you need in here to make that happen. And I've definitely seen people as well, if you're not all working all weekend, hopefully you're not, you could do it for Sunday evening, and then on Monday morning, it's going to be there. You don't have to wait for anything. Maybe you start at 5 a.m. in the morning, which I would never do. But if you like that, if you're a morning person, then you might want to pick Sunday night instead. So those are your options that you can choose for frequency. And as you see, it's just very easy to click and unclick and choose if you want it to be sent to yourself. When you look at the monthly view, right, it's going to give you kind of that calendar view. So you could choose the 1st of the month, the 15th of the month, and maybe, I mean, these are close together, but maybe the 1st and the 15th, or the 15th and the 31st, right? Or 30th. So, and this again tells you, right? I click the 31st, not every month has a 31st day. So it's going to give it to you on the last day of the month, whatever that might be. February, it's going to be less, right? So those are some of those options. Hopefully you all have set that up. Again, you can only do it for yourself, and you can do this for any report that you set up. And then of course, here we have the share report. If you own it, you can share it with whoever you want. So you can share it with everybody at your organization, at your firm, or you can share it with a person. So then I could come in here and say, I'm going to share this with Jasmine. Now she's the only other person that's going to see it, and it's going to show up in her report list as an option for her to view. And then of course we have archive, and you can archive after you've run the report, or you can also archive from here. That is what this button is here. So if there's something like maybe Jasmine is going to go in and she's going to update my report, she's going to save a new one, she does not need my report anymore, then she can go ahead and archive my report, and then she'll just have her report listed. That's a good tool to clean up this list, because as you can see, it can get long very quickly with people in the firm sharing things with you that you may or may not need. Okay. So those are some of those basic features inside of reports, how to utilize them, make sure you're using them to the best of your ability. Now, this medical item, right? I wanted to go show you how we get this button here that I can click on, and it's going to just pull this information, these two providers, and the information that we have wanted, that we have requested into this report. So as you can see, it was just that easy of clicking it, downloading it, and pulling it into a report. And let me make sure you can see my entire screen here.
And just a note here, if you are going to create these collection section exports, or an admin is, the report has to be shared with other users in order for them to be able to generate it. So it might show fine on your end, but if you haven't shared it with other folks, they're not going to have the same kind of capabilities.
Correct. If you are the person in charge of this, the Filevine admin, the office manager, whatever your title may be, you want to share it with the entire organization so that anyone who has access, because any collaborator at your firm has access to all the collection sections that you've given them access to. And so you want them to be able to run those reports there. Great call out, Jasmine. So I want to show you how that happens. Again, you may or may not have access to the advanced options, but you'll need to talk to the person that does at your firm in order to have this happen. We go into the customs editor, and the customs editor is our back-end tool that gives us all of the front end UI sections, all this information, all the fields and everything. They all live back here. And so let me find our personal injury that we were working in. We're going to go to our medicals here. And then we have this show collection options. This little button here gives us information to choose what information lives at the top here that shows as we're looking at it on that front page. And then also, this is that export. You can see that this is the exact name. When I come into this report here and hover over it, that is the name of the report. And there's one. You can add additional reports if you would like to collection sections, and you would add them here. So then I could come in and say, I also want my list of medicals. And that way the individual would choose. Now, like Jasmine said, she and I are the only ones who have access to this report. She and I are the only ones that could use it. So I'm not going to do that, but you would see it. Well, let's go ahead and show you. Now there are two listed here. So if I come to my front end, now we're going to have this little drop down, and both of those are going to show. So that maybe one is specific to the providers, maybe one is specific to the amounts. Like you could have multiple if you needed them. I recommend a large report that includes everything, and you should just need one. But there may be certain situations, certain criteria that you would want to filter down and have separate reports for. Maybe one is specific to people that are collecting the information, right, from the providers, the reports and stuff, and one is specific to people who are looking at the payment information. So you can have multiple here, which is great. It's a great tool to utilize, but you do have to have that back end access in order to add the reports here. I'm going to take this one away because people may not need it, want it, but it's there on that back end.
And you can see
All
that
right.
both of those are Excels. You do have the option to do Word documents as well. I think a lot of our team leans on Excel so that we can use those formulas that Hillary talked about, or the filtering across the top. It makes things a little bit easier depending on who you're sending it to or what data that you're extracting. But you are able to use Word documents as well in these if maybe you need it filled out in a more, a document that you can send to people, things like that.
Correct. Okay, let's come back over. We're going to look at our saved reports, right? We looked at Report Builder. You also have access to saved reports. This list that you would see here on your side, this is the same list as you see here. It's just a slightly different view because I have access to all these reports, or I can be creating new ones from this location. From your saved report list, you are just looking at any of these reports here, right? It doesn't necessarily tell me who I have access to any of them. So then I can just pull up that information and look at it. If I click on any one of them, it's going to run that report here. So I can see the data quickly. I can export it quickly. I can then edit. It will take me back to the report builder. But if you're just looking at data and information, maybe I need to see it, but I don't actually have to run the report to do anything. This is a great way to come and see. If I was, again, an admin office manager looking at who's working on what, is somebody behind on their tasks, I could quickly just look at their report here and know, okay, they're up to date. They're not having issues. Oh, my new hire is struggling on their task list. So I need to do a little more training with them. And so I could quickly see that. I don't have to run a report, print a report, look at it in any other way besides data. This is an excellent tool for you. And as you can see, you can, of course, archive it from here. You can also share it if you were the owner of the report. So personally, I usually just default to the report builder because, again, I have all the same access here. Plus, I can, if I look here and I say, I don't have what I need, then I can quickly come in here and pull up a report and grab what I need. All right. That is some basics, high-level overview so far. Any questions that I need to answer or that we need to go over before we dive into some other items?
None are in the chat. Before you leave the
Okay.
screen, though, one other thing to note, there are stars to the left of that like archive box that Hillary
Right.
was mentioning. Those allow for that report to go to the top of the list. So if there's one that you're like, this is my base report, I use this to start all of the rest of my reports, I change the criteria or I update this, you can go ahead and use that star to move it to the top so that you can easily access it. And then when you do archive a report, you have the ability to unarchive it down the line or delete it completely if you'd like. And those both are available on this kind of page
Yep.
as well.
Is. And as you saw, perfect call out for that, Jasmine. I now have this show archived reports. Previously, there were none archived here for me that I had archived. And now if I click this, I would see that archived. And as you see, I can either like fully delete it, or I can say, oh no, that was a mistake. I clicked the wrong thing. Let's unarchive it and put it back into our list here. So excellent call out. And yes, this is an excellent feature. Very similar to pinning a project in your project hub is that this list of reports can get very lengthy, and maybe you have the ones you're running frequently and you want to see them at the top. Star them. They will always live here at the very top so you can quickly run them, which highly recommend. All right. Perfect. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. I'm going to pull up my list of projects here. So let's go to some criteria that we may want to use. First off, we have primary. Okay, there's just super basic information here, nothing fabulous. So let's go back to front end. Sorry for jumping around a lot. When I work in Filevine, personally, I like to have open my front end UI and then another tab of whatever I'm doing. And I'm checking back and forth regularly. And I recommend this. You probably already do it. But as I'm looking for data points, I showed you this already. I love to just come in and pull it from here. I want to know who my lead attorney is. You will know, of course, I have to choose. Fine skills. You obviously will not have as many as we do listed because of course this is our sandbox. So this is just where we play and we have just, as you can see, lots and lots of things in here and the order gets adjusted regularly. So now what I want to do is search for my lead attorney. Now you have probably all had this where you're like, oh my gosh, there are so many things to choose from. How do I know? Especially when it comes to contact cards, because every single piece of data in that contact card, up to 8 addresses, phone numbers, emails, all of that is listed here and it gets cumbersome quickly, right? Right here at the beginning is going to tell you the section. So right now I know I am actually looking for the lead attorney in the case summary. And so you can start scrolling. From there, you can look in here and say, okay, who am I trying to pull? Which section? You can find your section in here. Oh my goodness, look at this case summary and start searching there. But again, you have all of these address 1, 2, 3. It's a lot. You want to try to narrow it down as much as possible. And right here is going to lead you a little bit to maybe what you're looking for. Personally, when I'm pulling in contacts of any type, I want the full name. I want to know their full name. So I would just start typing full space full. And then now it's narrowed down from this huge hundreds of options list to 4 items, either in my team section or my case summary. And I know I want case summary. So I'm going to pull in the full name. Extended, as most of you know, or if you work in DocGens, you may have to pull in the extended for letters, things like that. That's going to be your prefix, suffix. I don't need that in this report, so I'm not going to worry about that. But if you did, you would pull in the extended version. Okay, so I'm adding the lead attorney. I'm going to clean some things up. I don't need the org name. I want the name. Name is name of your project. I want that at the top. My phase, first primary lead attorney. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's not. Project type. Let's go in. I also like to have my paralegal's full name, same thing.
And just a note, if you're like, I'm searching and none of this is popping up, it's saying, I don't have data here, but you know that you have, a field titled that. There's this display related data columns that Hillary has turned on. It's natively turned off, but you can turn it on to reveal all of kind of those contact card options she was talking about. Um,
Yeah.
if you don't have them on, it really truncates the list of things that you're looking at. You can see the scroll is much shorter. But again, if you're looking for contact card specific data, you're going to need to display those related data columns. Deadline fields are also like initially, I guess, hidden behind that display related data columns.
Yeah, I like to have all of the information. It can hinder you finding exactly what you need. You do have to try to narrow it down. But I have been caught in that loop, like Jasmine said many times, where I'm like, I'm not finding what I need. And so I just turn it all on and try to filter it down from there. So I highly recommend that. Obsolete columns, you may not need. That's things that have been obsoleted that you're not looking at anymore. But maybe if you're running a report on an annual, monthly level, and you made some updates, that could be information that you would want to see for like a year-long report, because maybe you've got data in a couple places. Then you would check that obsolete columns, and then you could find them in here as well. But this one here is crucial for me to find what I need. Okay, so I like to put these in order. As you can see, you drag and drop them into the order that you want. You are not done at this point. You can change that. You can update that. If I run my criteria and I run that report, I would see it listed that way. And then I could say, oh, no, I don't like this. I'm going to move it from here to there. And then you just come back to the columns, drag and drop them in what you would like to see, what matters most.
And you
And
can
in this
also do it
case,
from this page too. There's like a little 3 lines that you can click to rearrange to remove items. You can like drag and drop these pin item or columns to the left. So if you have a super long report and you're like, I need to be able to see the name of the project as I'm scrolling, you can pin, and all of that is done on this page. But for columns, you can also rearrange there, obviously.
correct. Okay, so let's go back then to criteria because we do want to look at that some. And if you have specific criteria questions, feel free to throw them in. And we can try to dive in if we have some time here at the end to try to help you get to the right criteria that you're looking for. Like I said, sometimes you just have to start, and once you narrow it down as much as you can, you kind of have to start clicking through the options to find the one that works for you. But in this case, I definitely want to pull it by that lead attorney, and I don't want a grouping. I just, let's say that I am the paralegal and I'm working with a specific attorney. I'm not worried about all the other attorneys and what they're working on. I just need to know that caseload because that's my caseload. And I want to make sure that I'm assigned correctly to all of those. So it was what, lead attorney. And then we have full name, we have first name, right? So in this case, this again, as you can see, just like previously, the team has come up first. And that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. And now, of course, here we have our case summary, but you're only shown, these are those obsolete, and it tells you that. You're only shown so much data, and then you have to click show more, show more, show more, unless you know what you're looking for, just like in the columns where you're like, I want that first name. And this one can get a little tricky because sometimes there's, yeah, apostrophe S. So this is one of those criteria where it can be extremely frustrating because I did not need that to pull in the column for like full name or first name. Maybe in this way, I only want to do the first name. Now you can see it pulls up, but I had to have that apostrophe S. And the way that you know if you're searching and you're just like, how come I am not finding it? Because we saw if I started typing full, it's like, nope, there's nothing. You're like, I know it's there. Then that's when you can just kind of start scrolling through and see when really it's in the case summary here. What does it say? Like, so these aren't what I'm looking for. How do I get to that? You're gonna see here, company name. You're gonna see things, date of birth. These are things that you know live on that front page of the contact card. And so then you're like, okay, it has an apostrophe S. Now I know that's what I need to do to find that front face contact card for specifically for my lead attorney. And that's what I mean by sometimes it can get frustrating trying to find what you need, but most all the time, I promise you it's there. It can just be a little bit tricky. This is that criteria that I talked about previously. Is basically equals to, right? It has to be exact. Contains is, we're getting close, but it contains this. So in this case, I said full name, but maybe I don't have the full name. What's this? That Donald Duck, right? Is one of them. So I could just put in here Donald and then run that report. Now you can again filter it further. The thing about reporting in Filevine is there isn't or, it's really all and. And so the more filters you add, the more your criteria is coming down, but you can't say I want to see all of Donald's and Doctor Strange's. In this case, I would have to choose one or the other. I could say I want to see all of Donald's where Minnie Mouse is the paralegal, but any that Donald is working on that Minnie is not aren't going to show up. And if that's what I'm trying to get to, great. But it's an and you can have multiple criteria. You can have as many as you need or want. Just know if you do not see the data you're expecting on your report, it's likely because there is an or somewhere in the logic that is not going to translate in reporting and filing. So now if I run my report, it should only show me Donald's cases that he is working on, instead of we saw the list of all the other ones. Donald must not be put into my, oh, that was providers. See, look at me. I'm going to come back over here and add Donald to my lead attorney. There he is, Donald Duck. And then we will come in here and we want to rerun the report. And then it should pull up my one. I might have to refresh, but hopefully not. Any specific criteria questions, things that you have really struggled finding what you need? Sometimes, as I said, as you're looking at criteria, you can get down to a yes, no. Date ranges can be one that can be frustrating. Let's pull in, let's add a statute of limitations. And I'm going to add the due date, right? Actually, let's add the done date as well. Let's go over to our criteria. And now let's say done. Nope. See, this is what I want to do is I don't want to see any where the done date is completed. So what I'm looking for is really that like, yes, no, it's been completed.
The
Done
very
between
bottom,
done.
that one should have more options.
There we go. Perfect. Exactly. So sometimes you just have to click. As we saw, we could not see the full item, what it's titled. We couldn't see the whole thing. And yeah, I would never have known it's going to give me this drop down list based on this information here. Got to click on it, see it. I want to filter out anything that's done. I do not want to see that. But now here we have options for due, whatever is left that is still due. They're coming up. You could say between specific dates. If you make a report like this, you manually are going to have to come in and update these dates each month, whatever it may be, right? You could say days before today. Let me get rid of this one. And maybe I want it to be within the next 60 or 62 days for 2 months in case they're 31 days each, because I want to see what's coming up in the future. Are we prepared? What do we have done? So my criteria are looking for cases where Donald is the attorney, the statute of limitations is still active, and it's coming up within the next 62 days. And then I can run that report here. Maybe I don't want to filter it by the attorney. I could just come in and get rid of this here. Now, if I do this right, it's for all the cases at the firm, which is great. Gives me more data, gives me more information. And again, remember these are and run that report. This is our sandbox, so I might not have actual data, but in your firm, you can see how you would be getting good data there. And because I chose the days in the future up to 62 days, the next couple of months, and you could do however many you wanted to, I could set this up as that auto report that's being sent to me on that weekly, monthly basis to keep me on track for all of those. I could share that out with the firm, and then like if I was the admin, Filevine admin, I have the high level report. Then I share it out with everybody, and then each paralegal goes in and they filter it down for their cases that they're looking at, or the attorney that they're working on, so that they can be tracking those SOLs for their cases specific, and they would save it as their own report that matters to them that they're looking at. So that's some of the ways to use criteria. Play with the criteria to get what you need. Jasmine, were there any questions on specific criteria or things that people have struggled finding that we could dive into?
Not criteria. I do want to note that you don't have to have the column listed to use it as criteria. So Hillary added those in as a visual, but if you're like, no, I just need to see a list of all of the ones that are done, you don't have to have that as a line item there. There is a question, Hillary. If we have time, can we create a report that performs a conflict check for your client and the opposing party in each case?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's jump in to the best way to do a conflict check report in Filevine. 1 second, let me grab my additional criterias. So for the conflict check, like you said, you want to be checking the probably lead attorney and then the outside counsel, correct? Those were the two criterias that were the most important.
A conflict check for your client and the opposing party.
Client and the opposing party. Okay. And so the opposing party is the defendant, counsel, any of those, correct? Feel free to chime in. I just want to make sure that we're looking at all the right data that we need to.
I think in our personal injury template, the defendant is called defendant contact details or something. It's in the intake.
Okay.
And then client,
That's
our client.
right.
There,
So go ahead.
no, I was going to say there's also a section you can see in that like Darth Vader project that there's a conflict check section. Um, that can be added in for you to go in, and go ahead and check through the contact card as or through the address book as well. So you could type in there, search, and then it will show you kind of all of the people or businesses that pop up, and you can say, okay, yes, this is a conflict or not a conflict. This is obviously on a project by project basis, um, but that is another option.
Correct. Thank you for pointing that out. I know that some firms use and like the conflict check that Filevine has provided here, and some don't for various reasons. Highly recommend if you're going to have a report to also have this. It will help you actually to already have listed several of them. And so maybe you've missed one that you would have the backup of the report for. But as we could see, we were able to just quickly, I just typed in Strange to look for Dr. Strange here. And I could just review this. I could click on it here and go in and make sure there are no conflicts and dismiss this. Or I could say, this is a conflict, and it's going to add it now to the list here, as this is somebody that we need to be careful about. But for reports, again, you're going to run really that list of projects. There's not a specific conflict report that I am aware of inside of Filevine, because you would use that section just to be looking for contacts. That's what it is searching. If we were creating our own, and I potentially might want to use phase again, I always like to drag, I like the name at the top for the project. Sorry, what was that, Jazz?
I said me too.
Yeah. It should always be at the top. And then of course we want to go in, and from your template, you want to make sure that you're pulling in the right field. So one, we know that this is always kind of referred to as client for the most part inside of Filevine. So I would look at client and again, full name. And so I want to pull that in here. And then I would want to pull in, and like Jasmine said, I'm going to find that defendant information here because here we go, defendant information, because it's titled defendant information in our in this template that we're looking at, and you might just have it as defendant or defendant 1, 2, 3, like you can pull in multiple. And really, let's see if we have
In our litigation section, we have some
opposing. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that potentially we might want to be looking at those additional defendant fields. And again, they would be listed as defendant 1, 2, 3, 2 full name, as well as potentially that counsel, right? We wanted to be looking them up for as well. So you'd want to add every single thing that you are checking. And then again, what I recommend is creating the report with all of the fields that you want the system checking across the board for any contact that could be in conflict with this. I would leave no criteria in my base report, run it and save it. Then I would refer back to that report and come in and add criteria each time, so that I can be looking specifically for this name, that name, when it comes to that criteria, right? So then I would come in here and I could say, I want to know if the opposing counsel, you got to spell it right though. Is that not what it was called? Oh, defendant 1 counsel. Well, yeah, so you have to title it properly or it's not going to work. And it's again, apostrophe S. Some of these things, it's just the more you do it, the more you're gonna learn and get there. And then you may want to go ahead and put in, again, I personally like contains. Sometimes you like does not contain this or that, but really in this case, you'd want to have any sort of contains, right? And we'd be looking for whatever that name is and running that report. But again, this criteria is specific to my conflict check I'm running right now, not the general report that I want all of that data and help in. It's not a perfect system, as you can see, and that's why I highly recommend utilizing the conflict check that Jasmine talked about, because this is searching for the contact, overarching contact, no matter what field they're listed as, whether it was opposing counsel, defendant, client, any of those, it's searching for all of that. Whereas in the report builder, you have to narrow it down to those fields and which they could lie in. And remember that it's and not or. So then I potentially may have to run this for defendant 2 counsel, 3 counsel, 4, 5 in order to make sure that my information is coming correctly. And that I've crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's. So I recommend using the conflict check first and defaulting to the reports after if I feel like there is something else that we're missing here.
Yeah.
Keep in mind,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the section obviously keeps a running list. So, and it tells you who created the conflict check so that you can have some verification that it's been done. If you're using a report, there's not really a way. I mean, you could put it in the activity feed like conflict check done. But if you don't pin that to the top of the activity feed, that could get lost. Somebody could be duplicating efforts to go in and do another conflict check. So keep that in mind. This obviously updates in real time as you add contacts. If you do the report and you're working off of an old report, you might not get as accurate data either. So just keep all of that in mind.
correct. Also remember that in the contacts, you can also see those associated projects. So you want to highly utilize this as you're doing your deep dive with your conflict check to find out what other projects has this person been associated with, in order to see where they're at, what they've been involved in. Do I need to look into this deeper? And really that's what's being pulled up here. As we can see, this is the list there. But you also have it on a contact by contact detail as well. And it links it back to that project. And this says client, client, client. So it would tell you, see here, it's provider, right? So then it shows you whether it's the client, counsel, right, attorney, whatever, however you have them listed in those contacts inside of Filevine. I don't know if that answered your question well, but that's the best answer that we have for you right now. You could also reach out to Filevine and see if they have any other options, but I have a feeling they'll push you towards the conflict checker as well. It is a Filevine section. You may not have it or see it in your Filevine front-facing UI here. So you would just talk to the admin there at the firm and they should be able to go in and add that for you. And all they have to do is add conflict check, and it will show up on all of the cases.
It's one of the built-in sections in Customs Editor. For those of you that do have access and you're like, I'm the admin, but I don't know where to go. It's that advanced tab, Customs Editor. And then when you go to add a new section or create a new section, it's going to be, I think it's called conflict. You can obviously name it whatever you'd like on the front end, but it's that conflict check built in right there,
Correct.
Hillary. If you're working with a Vine Skills team member, they can also do it for you. So go ahead and just ask whoever at Vine Skills that you're working with, and they can make sure that they get that added in.
Great. We just have another minute. Any other last minute questions? Anything else that we have left before we wrap up?
If I
Yeah.
share a report with a coworker and make changes to the original afterwards, will theirs update too when they click their copy again?
Yes. So you have shared that report, whatever that finalized copy is. So if you make an update and they go look at it, it will be updated. Now, if you update it really quick and they look at it really quick, they may have to refresh their screen, right? That's a common thing in Filevine. But yes, they will get those updates as well.
And again, that's as long as you do the save option, not the save as. Save as
Correct.
creates a different copy. Save will override whatever you've done previously or update your current report. So keep that in mind as well.
Yep.
Perfect.
Correct.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Doesn't look like there's any other questions. Thank you, first off, Hillary, for sharing your expertise with us. Hopefully, you all learned something today. Thank you all so much for joining. If you all, again, want to engage in any of Vine Skill Services, feel free to reach out to us. We will also be at Lex. So, for all of you joining in Salt Lake City just in a few days here, feel free to stop by our booth, say hi. We'd love to see you and chat about how we can help you with Filevine and all of your Filevine related problems or improvements or optimization needs. Thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.